Hello and welcome to the show. I'm so glad you could join us. Listen, we've got a great show planned for you. You know, I talk about this year as live your dreams and enjoy life. That's what it's all about. So this week, we are blessed to have the guest, none other than Lee Pringle. And so I just want you to sit back, relax, and enjoy it because it's coming up next.
The Cecil Williams South Carolina Civil Rights Museum is the Palmetto State's first and only museum. It honors a generation of people, black and white, throughout the state of South Carolina who deserve to be remembered for their unselfish commitments and sacrifices. Enjoy an immersive and entertaining virtual tour. For more information, visit www.cecilwilliams.com.
Hello, everybody. It's Finkley of The Michael Finkley Show, and you're watching Gold right now. Why? You're watching The Tammy Show. Stay tuned.
Welcome back to the show. Listen, I'm so glad you could join us. I told you we've got a great show planned for you. You know, this gentleman that I'm getting ready to introduce you to is the founder and artistic director of the Color of Music Festival. He's a man on a mission with many talents and gifts, and I'm so honored to call him my friend. Without further ado, come on out, Mr. Lee Pringle.
How are you, my friend? What a wonderful joy to be with you.
Thank you. Thank you so much for being on the show. You know, Lee, we go way back, and yes. I know you, but I want you to tell our audience, who is Lee Pringle?
Well, Lee Pringle is a man of his community. Born and raised in Berkeley County, actually born in Moncks Corner, the big town of Moncks Corner, South Carolina. Attended Berkeley County schools, the old Charleston, Charleston Southern Baptist College. Actually started at Benedict, and did 25 years in the corporate world. And for the past 11, I've been in arts administration. And that's how I met you.
Yes. And you know, Lee, it's been over 10 years that you've done the Color of Music Festival, but it's been much longer that you and I have known each other. And when you started this vision, so I want you to talk about your inspiration for starting the Color of Music Festival.
It really was because I had been producing for the Charleston Symphony an annual MLK concert, which you know very well when you were CEO of the YWCA. And I was also doing Gospel Christmas for them. And I approached them about doing a concert in honor of Chevalier de St. George, who most of you know from the movie Chevalier. And I was turned down twice because they were really trying to get their footing again after coming out of insolvency and suspending operations. So I decided to take a leap and formulated a plan in 2012 and deployed it October 21st at the Dock Street Theater in 2013. And the rest is history.
I remember that. I
Yes.
remember that. And so 10 years. So, when we talk about the Color of Music, tell everyone what the Color of Music Festival is, because I'm excited because I've been talking about it and promoting it, all these wonderful Black musicians. Tell us about the Color of Music Festival.
Well, the Color of Music Festival is a Black classical musicians festival that gives Black conservatory trained artists, Black composers, and in particular, Black women a platform to not only play, but to conduct and to have their compositions presented at the festival. The festival actually has some of the most accomplished musicians in the world. The average person in my orchestra will have a doctorate in musical arts. And I would say that the bare minimum is a master's in performance. And the smaller portion of that musician pool will have a performance degree. So these are accomplished musicians from around the globe, majority in the US, but there's a nice chunk from Canada, from Berlin,
Mhm.
from various countries, Bogota, Colombia, Paris, who don't get a chance to present this music, and so that's what we are. That's what our mission is, and I'm so excited to be the head of this organization.
Well, I'm excited for you because I train classically on the piano, of course, from 3 years old up until now. I still play, and it when I said to my mother when I was heading to Howard, I said I'm going to major in music, and
Mhm.
I want to be this concert pianist. And the first thing she said to me was, "Well, you're going to be a starving artist."
All that education
and
she put on you, huh?
and I was like, mother, I said, but it would be so exciting as
Mhm.
a Black woman who speaks several languages
Mhm.
to be a part of this world. And so I guess I got scared, but my
Mhm.
point is that I'm glad that you're talking about Black women
Mhm.
in this field because you don't see Black women playing the
Mhm.
piano, playing the
Mhm.
oboe, you
Mhm.
know, playing the clarinet, all
Mhm.
these types of, and the violin, all these types of instruments. So when I think about that, I want to find out from you how easy or how challenging was it for you to get the Black musicians involved, the classical musicians involved?
Well, I started meeting Black classical musicians and conductors when I was affiliated with the symphony, singing in the symphony chorus. And that goes back to the early 90s, like 91, 92. And when I was asked to come on the board as a director, as fate would have it, I was asked to help them start Gospel Christmas. So that's really how I started to meet a lot of them. There's a very good friend of mine who got his conducting degree from the University of Michigan, his undergrad from Oberlin, named Vincent Danner. You probably remember
I
Vincent,
do.
because you came to some of those early
Yes,
performances.
I do.
Vincent introduced me to a whole pool of musicians who had gone to some of the top conservatories, Juilliard, Manhattan School of Music, Cincinnati Conservatoire, um, the Royal Conservatoire in London, the
Mhm.
Conservatoire in Birmingham,
Oh, yeah.
but they could not get those coveted jobs on American symphony stages. In fact, less than 2% of the 1,700 orchestras that exist in the United States and Canada have musicians of African ancestry. It's a very
Mhm.
expensive art form, and you know that studying
Yes.
piano, your parents must have the means, or you're by stroke of luck, you get to a school that has a pretty decent fine arts program. And for
Mhm.
our community, that's generally not the case because we're usually kind of relegated into those underserved communities where the parents don't have the extra resources. However, there's a big swath of our community that do have the resources, like your parents did, and their kids go on to get graduate degrees and so forth, and they end up having to go into academia because they can't get
Just
those
can't.
jobs, and so
Hey,
they got to make a living. They need
starving
retirement.
artists.
That's that's your mother, bless your mother's soul. She knew, she
Yeah.
knew a lot of those artists.
Mhm.
Yeah, so
Wow.
so that's why, it's so important, our mission to give Black women the platform to conduct and to have their compositions brought to the fore. And in fact, I was driving to ETV radio late last night to get on the radio this morning, and I got an email from a woman by the name of Joyce Mormon, who spent 50 years in New York City, classically trained composer. And I met her literally in passing through, and you
Wow.
probably know Karen Alexander, the CEO of
Yes,
Auntie
yes.
Karen.
Oh, Auntie Karen.
Yeah, so Karen and I go back probably about 35 years. Karen had her friend down here, Irma, who's from Charleston but lives in Columbia, and introduced me to her and said she's a classically trained composer.
Mm.
Long story short, in 2014, we ended up presenting one of her quartet pieces, and I reconnected with her just last night in the car. And she sent me some compositions that I'm hoping to get on the stage in May when we come back for the North Charleston Arts Festival.
Oh, wow. How exciting is that? But you know what? Like you say, that's faith. I call it God,
Mhm.
how he puts things together for
Yes.
for what you are doing. Just like I'm saying, it's like living your dream. And so when I ask about and I talk about living your dreams and enjoying life, what do you hear? What does that mean to you?
That is a great question. I don't want to misquote Oprah, but many, many years ago, she says, find the thing that you are passionate about and it won't be work. I did the corporate world for 25 years, being responsible for percent over prior year, managing regions and territories, making
Mhm.
sure that you're hitting your sales goals, et cetera. And when I pivoted into this direction, and you remember those early days, those were 16-hour, 17-hour days, because I
Yep.
literally did everything because I couldn't afford to
Yes, you
pay anybody
did.
for anything. Now I have a whole staff. I mean, it just tells you with perseverance and sticking to it, you can do something that literally is not work. Now, I say that honestly, and I hope I get the opportunity to share with young Black men and women, young adults who have a dream to start a nonprofit and to be successful and impart some of those things, the landmines as well as the highs. I always say, using the metaphor of being in financial services, the highs have outperformed the lows exponentially. And I know
Mhm.
you understand that, having been in television and executive roles, et cetera, that it takes a sticking to it. And I just say that I come from a wonderful, wonderful lineage of Black people who did not subscribe to what I call a mediocrity. And when you're taught by Black educators, I think I'm one of the last generations. If you were a 69, 70 school year kid, we
Mhm.
started reaping all the benefits of Brown versus Board of Education.
Yes.
When you know your history and you know that your people are literally the globe's cadence, Black Americans, Black Native Africans on the continent provides the cadence for the world. And I'm glad to play a small role in it, in the choral world and now in the orchestral world.
Wow. So when we talk about that, providing that, I always ask people what people want to know. What were some of those obstacles that you faced when you started this?
The majority population not being willing to invest in Black endeavors. We're the only segment in the American society that pay state, federal, county, and city taxes, but yet we have no institutions that we can point to because of how the system was basically cornered to keep us out. And I, don't get on panels to pontificate, but when I get the opportunity to tell the truth, I say it. And I say it to funders that I'm in the room not for the Black people's check. I'm in the room for the white people's check today.
Mm.
Because I understand that what my comrades will get, who tell me the difference in pay, tell me
Mm-hmm.
the difference
Mm-hmm.
in investment. I bring a little bit of levity to that comment when I'm in a room, but I let people know that I know what time it is. I know the type of money, the legacy organizations that have been around since, the 20s and the 30s. But when they started these institutions that they modeled after Europe, we
Mm-hmm.
couldn't even go into the concert hall.
That's right. That's
Okay.
right.
So how do you expect us to build a Black ballet or a Black opera company or have a color of music when we don't have the resources. The system is set up that the legacy organizations get all the development money. So whenever I get the opportunity to shake the cage,
yeah, you shake it.
I shake the cage. And you know, I'm not indignant about it, but I am straight up about it, because I don't want the generation that hopefully I can inspire to be relegated to all the rules apply, okay, unless you know somebody.
Mm-hmm.
Because I can tell you, I've been in cities, you know, we've been on the West Coast, we've been in Houston, we've been in Tulsa, New York City, Carnegie Hall, Pittsburgh, Richmond. We're getting ready to go to St. Lucia, London,
Right.
etc. I can tell you that when the majority population wants something to happen, when they want to create an institution, the money comes. But that's where our state legislatures need to be more active in supporting Black causes. And I don't want to sound like I'm a preacher, but I have to tell you, because I have the battle scars of dealing with that.
Exactly.
And you know it as a producer, creator of shows, the struggle that it takes
real
for you to do what you have done all these years. So that's why it means a lot to me when a Tammy McCarthy says, I want to have you on my show, because you were one of my biggest supporters from the very beginning, you know? So I really appreciate that.
Thank you so much. I appreciate you. Gonna make me cry, Lee.
It's important. We've got to acknowledge our community. And you know, being from Charleston, we have some incredible talent. Many of them are retired now, and some of them have gone on. But you know, I often say our fortitude for perseverance is something that I think the ancestors gave us, because they knew we were going to have a hard time once we left the continent. So if we could survive being disembarked at North Atchis Wharf, with the International African American Museum,
yes,
Fort Moultrie over here near me,
yes,
and then 90 days later go to all these plantations. I'm a seventh generation descendant of Arthur Middleton of Middleton.
Middleton Plantation, the Middleton Place.
So I understand that when I'm stepping out really representing my community. So, and I'm a tough cookie when it comes to the details.
Yes, you are. Yes, you are. Well, listen, we're going to take a break, Lee, because I want to come back and I want to talk with you about the investment that people are really placing in the Black arts, Black music, Black classical music, and what that looks like. So we're going to take a break and we'll be right back. Folks, we'll be right back.
The Orangeburg County Conference Center supports downtown Orangeburg and our surrounding communities. The 6,000 plus square foot space is ideal for groups of up to 400 people attending corporate meetings, conventions, workshops, and special events. Conference Center staff are inspired to ensure that everyone can enjoy the modern amenities. State-of-the-art ballroom that accommodates up to 400 guests banquet style and 430 guests theater style. A warming kitchen with hot boxes, ice machine, refrigerator, freezer, and counter space. A lobby that accommodates 150 guests with special events outdoors. The comfortable outdoor amphitheater has a video wall and seating. Adjacent to the amphitheater is 12,000 plus square feet of green space that extends events outside, plus complimentary on-site event parking and additional parking across the street. Your event can take place all in one spectacular location. We welcome your special event in Orangeburg.
Stay tuned. You are now watching The Tammy Show. This is Roger Gass. Welcome.
All right, there we go. There we go. Listen, thank you so much for joining us. If you're just joining us, I'm speaking with Lee Pringle, the founder and artistic director of the Color of Music Festival. And so, Lee, as we were talking before, you mentioned something that struck me, which was folks investing in Black music, in Black classical music, the arts, period, and how hard it is. Are you seeing that? Since you've been doing this, has that increased where you're able to get the funding and you're seeing that people are investing in Black classical music, in which is the Color of Music Festival?
Not as they should. And I will say the tragedy of George Floyd being murdered in May of 2020 shook the conscience of America because we had to stand still. We were in a pandemic. Had we been living our lives like we had before the virus permeated the globe, George Floyd would have been another number. But because everybody had nowhere to go but to be home and watch television and stream, it was highlighted the disparity of how Black men in particular were being treated and being murdered, grabbing their registration card, or just, kid in the store playing with a BB gun gets shot by a trigger happy police officer. So all the things that you as a mother and others, prayed about when your kids leave the house, America had it right in their face. And so a lot of what I call social media advocacy was taking place. Because I had been around the bar a couple times, I knew we had about a year and a half to 2 years of currency out of all the things corporate execs, diversity and equity inclusion officers were saying that their Fortune 100 companies were going to do. The reality of it is, it was all talk. And now the political climate, there's a regression that there are actually people who were standing still and understood that we disproportionately were at the low end of the totem pole on all the matrices, deaths for mortality, murders with guns, and all these things that we know. As soon as we got back to being able to go everywhere we wanted to, you started hearing political comments that diversity, equity, inclusion was not something that should be a focus. So the pendulum swung all the way, came to the equilibrium, and now it's getting ready to swing again. And that's why supporting endeavors like this, as you were saying, an investment, we have to keep the heat on these corporations. That how can you employ probably one of the largest minorities you have in your workforce, but yet do nothing to support recreational and outside of the workplace events that inspire them and inspire their children? Because as well as I do, kids that study any type of instrument typically do better academically.
That's right.
All the self-study aspects of learning how to study, you have to perfect an instrument. As you know, the middle C and beyond, piano, you got to put the time in the piano.
That's it.
And so math and sciences and just critical thinking. Kids, the nerds like me that were in band and choir, we had a larger percentage of college graduates and success stories. That's true. Nothing against kids who play sports, because there's some benefits to sports, but there was a disproportionate of those kids that either couldn't make it because of injuries in the sports, and other factors that kept them. But being a singer and being a tenor, I know that wherever I would go in the world, I had friends, because God didn't make that many tenors.
Yeah, how about
a lot of basses,
a lot of basses, but not
a lot of basses and a lot of baritones. But
that's right,
but not that many tenors. So
that's right. Wow.
I always had friends.
Wow. Well, when I think about all that you've done, and like I said, I'm just so blessed to have you as a friend and call you my friend. And I think about all that you have done. What would you say has been your biggest accomplishment?
I would say the biggest accomplishment is to stabilize a nonprofit organization in a way that we have respect. We may not have the multi-generational wealth that the white institutions have. Not that we can't get it, because there's a lot of nouveau riche Black money out there. I just need those who are listening to take a leap on your own, folks. Don't run to the Spoleto board and give them $25,000. And then, when a Tammy comes to you for a sponsorship or a Lee Pringle comes to you for sponsorships, you give us $1,000. Don't get caught up into the socialite aspects of your philanthropic activities. Support your own. And when I have the opportunity, as a nonprofit, I can't be doing too much because I have donated money. But when we have unrestricted funds and there's an ability for me to support Black causes, I do that because I understand what it is to make a payroll. And when you have 102 people, expecting their checks to clear, that's a responsibility.
Yes, it is. Yes, it is. Yes, it is. Well, as we are winding down, I want to ask you, because I know folks that are listening will want to know, what's the takeaway that you want viewers to glean from this interview?
We are multifaceted people, and we have been in this space from the very beginning. In fact, classical music, after our native people and the indigenous people learned music and created instruments, from the banjo to the marimba that they call the xylophone, but it actually is named after an African queen. Okay. The piano, the precursor to what we call the piano. Where do you think they got ivory from? It didn't come from the Nordic places. Okay.
Came from Africa.
And so when I say I want people to take away from it, that we were not only in this space, we deserve to be in this space. Because in the United States, unlike Europe, where the state funds their arts, classical arts, we were a renegade colony, and we said we wanted to not give the king all of our money. They enslaved us. They took our mental and our physical activities to create this incredible institution of classical arts, but to this day have yet to give us our portion of it. So I have rocked the whole thing by having the word Black in our logo, because where it says Color Music Festival, it's actually Color of Music Black Classical Musicians Festival. That's too much to put on a tag. So I go in, I don't apologize for being Black. I don't apologize for being someone who's proud of his people's accomplishments in this world. And I'm going to continue to do what I'm doing, because I am standing on the shoulders of some people who endured some indignities for me to be here. I can never fully understand it. So come support us. Come see Black excellence personified during the February 6th through 10th timeframe. Because Tammy says she's going to be in the audience.
Oh, yes, I'm coming.
She's going to make it to Edmund Thornton Jenkins, yes, on that Friday at the Gilliard
Oh,
Center.
yeah, I can't wait.
Saturday the 10th.
Saturday. Saturday the 10th. So the festival, let's talk about what's happening, because there are several things happening from February the 6th through the 10th. Just give us some highlights.
Yeah, so we're starting out with some incredible chamber. If you remember the movie Chevalier, I have a friend of mine, Michael Jurgensen, Dr. Jurgensen, along with Dr. Elizabeth Hill. They will be doing Chevalier's 3 sonatas for piano and violin. Actually, Dr. Jurgensen debuted it in 2015 at the Wilcox Theater at the museum, the Charleston Museum. We will also then have the all-female chamber orchestra, 21 exceptional women led by Anyango Yarbar Davenport. German-born, mother is a Black woman from Shaker Heights, Ohio, has her doctorate from Eastman School of Music. She studied at the conservatories in Europe. She's going to lead the women in a concert in honor of Leontine Price's 97th birthday. Then we have a mono opera. These are all the primetime events where we're going to do The Greyland. It's based on the story of Ferguson, but placed in a sense of how Samuel Barber created Knoxville, summer of 1915, telling the story of yesteryear. But for our generation, Ferguson is where the first murder occurred, where this young man's body was just left out there to be, seen by everybody for hours before anything happened. And then the finale is Edmund Thornton Jenkins, whose father was Reverend Daniel Jenkins of Jenkins Orphanage. Edmund went to the Avery Normal School, which you have ancestors who attended Avery.
Yes.
From Avery, he went to Morehouse College at the time, Morehouse literally changed their name from the Baptist College. It was I can't remember, the Baptist Association College, but it became Morehouse in, I think it was 1913. And Edmund was one of the first classes to graduate with the Morehouse name. He then went on to the Royal Conservatory in London. And that's where he met Robert Nathaniel Dett, who you know was at Bennett College, Morehouse's sister college. And he met Samuel Coleridge Taylor. And they formed a group called the Coterie of Friends. So if you come to the matinee performances, Tuffa Zimbabwe is the great nephew of Edmund, and he's the keyboard player for the Saturday Night Live band with Dr. Karen Chandler, who I'm sure you remember Dr. Chandler.
Oh, yes.
She ran the Avery Research Center and just retired as Professor Emerita for the Arts Management Program at the College of Charleston. So we have Dame Shirley Thompson coming from London. She is an OBE, which is the Order of the British Empire. She did a composition for King Charles's coronation, and many, many other chamber settings that if you go to the Color Music website, you can see a lot of great things, or come to the Tammy site and she'll direct you to it.
Oh, yes, that's what we're doing. And Willie's going to show the Color of Music. And so that's the website. And then you also have the Instagram account at the Color of Music Festival. And I'm telling you folks, you've got to see this. I remember the first concert. I remember when we were there at Meminger Auditorium. That was one. And I put Aunt Cindy, who's now 101 years old, and we had a fabulous time. And
one of my early supporters.
That's right. And she still loves you because I told her that you were going to be on the show, and she said she sends her best. Just talked to her early this morning.
Tell her I send my regards as well. Yes.
Yeah.
You know, I will say this, Tammy, and I know you got to wrap it up.
No.
There were so many people like your Aunt Cindy, who, from Miss Lucille Whipper, who's no longer with us, from McKinley Washington, who's no longer with us. All of these folks, John Orr, whose wife Yvonne Orr, Cecilia Rogers, all these people that you know. Miss Marjorie Amos Frazier, that's right. Elise Amos Goodwin, her daughter. You know, all these folks got behind me, and when the wind was in my face, they kept pushing me forward. And although I don't get to see a lot of them, you know, I do want them to know that I wouldn't be walking this path if it had not been for them pushing down the corn stalks for me to walk through it. And so I'm forever grateful to the Black community in Charleston for being my first audience. And it was the native Charlestonians, not what I call in Bella, the Kumyans.
That's right, with the Banyan.
It was the Banyans who were with me from the very beginning. And it always touches my heart when I see them in the audience, because we've gone so many places since those beginning years when you were running the Y and we were doing that MLK program and you know, all that stuff. It was really some good times. Yeah.
Good times. Well, listen, what's next for you, Lee? What's next?
Next for me, we are planning to take the festival to Phoenix, Arizona, Portland, Oregon, and Minneapolis, St. Paul. And as I said, in 2025, we'll be at the Royal Conservatoire in Birmingham, and we'll have a performance in Cadogan Hall in Chelsea. We're working on one other place in London, but we're also going to be in St. Lucia. And we'll be a part of the International Women's History Month in London and St. Lucia. The All-Female Chamber Orchestra is the group that will be traveling abroad So I want the women, all the Jack and Jill, the Lynx and the Deltas and the Zetas and other Panhellenics that I'm not mentioning. I need the women to come out on that Wednesday night to support the ladies. Yes. Okay. Because they are incredible. Wednesday night, on the 7th is when the all-female chamber orchestra, if you can get out there, I appreciate it.
Well, if I can make it on the 7th, I will try my best. And
just
maybe
text me and I'll have a seat for you.
Okay, that sounds like a plan. And maybe I'll be able to interview one of the ladies doing Women's History Month.
Absolutely.
I would love to do that.
I will make any of the musicians available to you, Tammy McCartry.
Sounds like a plan. Oh, Lee, thank you so much. Lee, it was such a pleasure having you on the show. Every time we get together, it is just so breathtaking because, as you said, we had the opportunity to be raised by some wonderful people in a wonderful village.
Yes.
And we're standing on their shoulders.
Absolutely.
And that's important. That's important. Yeah.
That's right. So we gotta show your producer, Willie, why this cohesiveness is here for that generation. This is my 60th year around the sun.
Wow.
And so I feel that it's more important now than it was 10 years ago when I wasn't at this place. But yes, when I step out, I'm stepping out for that example to inspire, and because I had some hard stepping brothers who showed me the way, starting with my dad.
That's
and
right.
all the men in my community, but in particular the Black male educators and Black female educators. Yes.
That's right. That's right. Well, Lee, listen, my darling, it was so great having you on the show. Thank you. And I'm going to call you after we get off, after we leave. I'm going to call you.
Okay.
And more importantly, Willie's going to be in touch with you. So
absolutely.
And I thank you for that, because as you said, we've got to raise our younger generation, and so that they can stand on our shoulders.
That's right.
And we hope that, and we know that they'll do even more and bigger and better things than us.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, thank you. Thank you to Mildred Gilmore Bavard, the late Mildred Gilmore Bavard, for teaching me music, because none of this would be happening if I didn't have the former Miss South Carolina State College, her and Dr. Bavard, Henry Bavard. Yeah,
Bavard, yes.
Yeah, they were incredible examples. Incredible examples. So we missed them.
I thank you. And I thank you so much. Thank you for all that you're doing. Many blessings to you, and whatever I can do to help the Color of Music Festival. Lee, I am here for you. And you got to come to Orangeburg. You got to bring some of that to the conference center.
I saw that, and my mind started clicking.
Yes, I know it did. Yes. Well, thank you again, Lee.
Thank you.
Have a wonderful evening. God bless.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. All right, listen, folks, you heard it right here. Mr. Lee Pringle, founder and artistic director of the Color of Music Festival. When I tell you this brother is who you need to sit down and talk with about history, Black history, and as we're moving into February, he just laid the foundation for us. And so again, Lee, I want to thank you. I want to thank you, viewers, for always tuning into Tammy right here on the YouTube channel, the Tammy TV Show. And as I tell you, thank you to my producers, Alicia, assistant producers, Tiana, Willie, man, I love you all. I do. And I want you, please subscribe to the Tammy TV Show. Just hit that red subscribe button. It will notify you of when we're coming on. And so until the next time, remember, I always say, make sure that you check on somebody today. Be a blessing to somebody each and every day. Take care of yourselves. Bye-bye. Coming up on the next Tammy, I'll be chatting with William S. Robinson, CEO of William S. Robinson and Associates, also the chair for the Kershaw County Democratic Party. Listen, it's all coming up on the Tammy TV Show YouTube channel, Thursdays, 7 p.m. See you then.